Greetings and salutations, fellow viewers of movies. This has been a long time coming.
Oh, yes, it has.
I will do the catch-up because this is one of those podcasts where we sit down to record and I'm thinking, yeah, we're probably not going to go at this for long. And then like 3 hours later. So I'll try to be brief in the backstory here. You have never seen Batman v Superman.
No, I saw it. I saw trailers for it and went, I don't want to see that movie. That movie looks like ass.
I was really not a fan of Man of Steel. Man of Steel was notably the first Zack Snyder film that I didn't care for most of. I liked the parts with
Krypton.
Zod and Krypton, yeah. And as a byproduct, we also did not go see Justice League because it looked worse.
Again, I saw trailers for it and went, that movie looks like ass. Jason Momoa seems to be having a good time.
And here we sit. Y'all aren't deaf to culture. You know what's happened.
The internet managed to literally have a giant piss baby hissy fit until they got them to remake a whole ass movie.
For once, good.
I mean, if you're gonna use your weaponized whining, is the term I'll use on the podcast, to that degree, at least something good should come out of it.
So here's the situation as it stands. We have, as of about 15 minutes ago, completed viewing Zack Snyder's Justice League as it is available on OWCH at this time.
This 4 fucking hours.
I think you could have handily trimmed about half an hour from that film.
And lost nothing.
But, you know, this is also, as of my understanding as of me recording this, I haven't been on social media much today. Up until this point, everybody, including Zack Snyder, has said Zack Snyder's not doing anything with the DCEU anymore. So, you know, he went ahead, did his big shebang, and shot a couple shots in the meantime. Prior to this, about a week ago, maybe a little longer, my timeline's a little skewed, I viewed, I suppose 2 weeks, Batman v Superman and the original flavor Justice League. You are, however, still, although you do have secondhand tales, you haven't personally witnessed.
I was going to, but then, you know, to catch up before the new version, so I could give a proper comparison. But then White here suggested an interesting thought experiment, having me watch it largely untainted from the previous versions and the previous movie, which I knew I wouldn't like that much. I know the plots of the original Justice League vaguely. I have sugar packets on the original Justice League. And I know the plot of Batman v Superman. That's how I know I wouldn't like the movie. But I have never seen them entirely. I've seen a scene here, a scene there. People insisted I watch the scene with Batman fighting in Batman v Superman, and it was good. And, like, that has happened over the course of several years. So I've seen bits and pieces, but I have not watched either movie in its entirety.
I have my notes on Batman v Superman up here, just in case I need to reference back to them over the course of this. As a summary, it was 2 hours of a really grim movie. There was a better Lex Luthor origin for the character that was Batman. And then an hour of, wow, that was worth it. Would I suggest sitting through it again? I don't know. And again, it's important to note that the versions of both of these movies that I watched were on HBO Max.
Yeah.
I don't know if that matters for Justice League.
He watched the extended cut of Batman v Superman.
Yeah, which adds the plot back in and a lot of the good character building and depth and stuff. So I watched a better movie than those of you who went to see it in theaters. I also got to see some Batfleck butt. That's part of the bonus you get, and some CrossFit. So
Gotta have more CrossFit, I guess.
If there was one thing I could complain about this film is that there was no CrossFit.
That's not something I would complain about. It was already 4
I was
hours.
Fully kidding.
But Justice League.
Yeah.
The version that we watched.
Yes. The good one.
Yeah, it's good. I'm I really like this movie. I think it's really good. I think it's like middle, maybe upper middle MCU tier.
Yeah, that ending was really solid.
Very different vibe, but in terms of like general tier of movie, that's about where it sits. Pretty good. I've seen better Justice League movies, but I am not a anti-animation weirdo, so like I don't automatically count animated movies as lesser than non-animated ones. Which a lot of people do still somehow in 2021.
Cinema snobs. I mean, you know, look at Scorsese.
But like, I've seen better Justice League movies, but this was a pretty good Justice League movie. A little long in the tooth, but I liked most of what they did with that extra time. It allowed them to build stuff in. I mean, it is separated into 6 separate, literally denoted with title cards parts. This was basically a mini-series.
Yeah. You could have made this a mini-series, and it wouldn't have felt as like, Jesus Christ, 4 hours. It would have been, wow, only 4 episodes?
Yeah, like an actual mini-series.
Yeah. Where to begin?
Well, I would normally make a pithy joke about at the beginning, but there's 2 different beginnings to discuss here.
There is. Let's do the compliment sandwich. Okay?
Okay.
Why don't you roll first?
All right.
Give me your thoughts on this movie, and how it contrasts with what you've heard about and what you were expecting, and so on and so forth.
Okay. All right. So, I'm not going to belabor the length too much. I'm going to try and talk about the movie as it exists. I think all of the characters in this movie, and for me in superhero movies, a big part of it is character motivation and delivering on character arcs. And this movie does all that stuff really well. It has a really good interpretation of the beginning of Cyborg's arc, which is a hard shot to land. Because as we were watching it, you actually pointed out, oftentimes Dr. Stone, Cyborg's dad, can come across as really cold and uncaring towards his son, which is not consistent with who he really is in his better depictions. They don't do that here, and that's really good. That's hard to do while still having him do, the thing he does, make the Cyborg Man.
Which was a character, I don't know, I hesitate to call it an arc, a characterization they did have in the original Justice League. Dr. Stone was not a bad guy.
That's good. I think they did a really good job with Batman's arc. It's a different arc than we see from Batman usually. Much more open, much more like... much less fixated on being Zaubabat, and like it's a very interesting take. I've never actually seen like a full movie of Batfleck, and it was about as good as I hoped it would be. He brings some of the old Ben Affleck, man who'll fuck you in a very uncomfortable place charm to the role, and the role is improved thereby. The only arc, and it is somewhat curtailed, so that's fair. The only arc I'm not amazingly fond of is Clerks, because he's not in most of the movie, so he's only got so much room to work, and a lot of his experience in the movie is either a fight scene or him staring off into the middle distance, either looking neutral or smugly smiling a little. And I wasn't amazingly fond of it.
If I may interrupt briefly. Mm-hmm. And this is roughly the Greek chorus to everything either of us says in critique about this Zack Snyder's Justice League. It was worse than the original. You know how Superman has that bit where he goes back to the farm and he kind of remembers what was going on and he slowly pieces together.
Yeah, the staring off into the middle distance.
Yeah,
section.
We're making that good, oh yeah, I remember stuff, face. It was good acting, by the way. I wrote that.
Look, Henry Cavill does great with what the material he's given here.
Yeah, he didn't have most of that dialogue.
Oh!
He just flew out to the farm and it was like, we're on the farm now. And then cut to a different scene where they're like doing shit. Cut to back, and he's like, I'm gonna hug my mom. There was a little dialogue there. Nowhere near as
like,
much.
as much as I don't like staring off in the middle distance, you do need it. Yeah.
I mean, like, I understood what was going on there, but I don't know that that's fair for me to be the person to be like, yeah, I get what's up. Like, that, you didn't portray that well to the audience.
I like pretty much everyone else's arc in this movie, such as they exist. Diana doesn't have much of one. She's mostly just right about everything. She's
mostly just really awesome. She is the axis around which everything else tilts.
And she's really cool, and she does really awesome Wonder Woman shit pretty much every time she's on screen.
Oh, amazing.
And I don't just mean fighting. She does a lot of the really good Wonder Woman shit that you don't see a lot in stuff where Wonder Woman is more like your mean ex-girlfriend, which happens more than you would expect.
Yeah.
She's very kind and compassionate.
Yes.
And those are some of the things I love most about Wonder Woman. She is a hardened Themyscirian warrior. She is the Amazon princess, but she is also one of the most compassionate people who is simultaneously a superhero. And that they portray that well is really good. I want to put a shine on something that I want. It's me both saying something I really enjoyed and sort of teeing you up.
Okay.
I really like Steppenwolf's character arc in this movie. They do a really good job portraying his, like, please be proud of me, Dad, motivation towards Darkseid. And, like, give him almost relatable goals. Like, obviously you don't want him to destroy the world, but you kind of get it.
Which is a big departure from the original movie. He was very two-dimensional. Like, he was written like a really good Power Rangers villain. He wanted to do the bad things, and he was very bad about it. Quietly threatening to rape all the Amazons, and which is not something someone from Apocalypse wouldn't do.
I mean, yeah, it's perfectly in character.
But it was just kind of like, come on, man! Like, you can't.
It's almost like a lazy Sunday for Desaad.
But like, it wasn't like a big part of the problem of the original Justice League was telling and not showing. They did this beautiful thing where they took the cool fight scene where in the original movie Wonder Woman explains the entire backstory. They cut off a lot of the explaining because it had already been established in previous scenes.
You said that. There was a lot of explaining in that scene.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, she talked over the whole thing non-stop.
Oh, no.
Explaining things.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful because she didn't. Sometimes she let the action breathe. She wrote lyrics to the music that the scene was providing. You didn't notice when she wasn't talking. I did, because I saw the other one.
I wish you could see his face here, guys. He's so upset.
It's one of my favorite emojis, the one with just the eyes, no mouth.
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ. But yeah, I loved that he felt relatable, and that's a really good way to put it. He feels like a three-dimensional villain. We live in a post-MCU world, and though this movie came out in like the late middle of the MCU, come on, we'd already gotten there. You can do better. In fact, there's a guy who did better with a three-dimensional, relatable villain
who also wants to destroy the world.
I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
I think we had settled on director-shaped hole, but that's a little long. Do you have any way to shorten it?
Just a hole.
Well, he's a director-shaped hole, so how about a-hole?
Ah, that is good, yes.
Yeah. We came up with that before the podcast.
Can you tell this is a good bit? I am speaking, of course, of Joss Whedon. I don't, like, what is he going to come after me? Fucking do it, Scrublord, I'm ripped.
I mean, honestly, if Joss Whedon came after us, we'd probably get a bunch of fans.
I'd fuck him up worse than his last wife.
Oh!
I used to like Joss Whedon a lot. I'm not going to take too much time out of the podcast because we got a lot to say anyway, but I'm going to mention it right here. The last good thing he did was Age of Ultron, and I don't know how much that had anything to do with him.
That probably had a lot to do with him. I mean, if you listen to any of the people in that movie talk.
Yeah. Well, yeah, all the abuse and whatnot.
You.
I mean, you got a Kubrick kid. You got to whip them into shape so they'll perform. Anyway.
I meant the characters.
Oh, right. Yeah, they do have very Whedon-esque dialogue. I don't know how much wasn't a collaborative effort. Let me say that.
Oh, yeah, almost certainly. I mean, look, the Russos did write that, I believe.
They did a lot of the writing, I believe, or they were at least heavily involved in overseeing.
And then they took over, and then, oh my god, everything got really good.
What do you know? But and that's the quickest way I can summarize the original Justice League. And I'm not the first one to say so, but it's like, it's that meme. Hey, can I copy your homework? Okay, but
change it a little.
Yeah, and he just kind of was like, half-assed it. I'm only looking for a C- here. And like, as I understand it, as Zack has said, as I've seen on the internet elsewhere, there weren't a lot of reshoots for this movie. There were, like, for the Snyder Cut, but like, a lot of that shit was just left on the editing room floor.
Which means this is a movie Joss Whedon chose not to make.
Yeah.
Which is baffling to me, because this is a fine... I mean, it is 4 fucking hours, but it's a fine movie.
Well, again, cut half an hour off of that. 3.5 hours for a big, epic fucking movie.
You know what? Fine. No, that's going to get studio noted to death. Especially for Warner Brothers. Like,
and I think that's another problem. You know, as much as I criticize the CGI in the original version, and the CGI in this is not up to Marvel scale.
There are a couple real rough patches on the CGI.
But fuck, it's better than the first one. A Batman fighting a parademon in the opening scene on what is clearly soundstage Gotham. Green screen Gotham.
Oh, they brought Gotham back from the fucking Tim Burton movies?
Yeah. Fucking might as well have just projected a PNG of it.
Soundstage Gotham where 20 people live?
Yes. Jesus Christ. Do you have anything else that you would like to mention right now about the film before I go off on some comparisons here?
I think they did a really fine version of an apocalypse plot. Especially a more modern one. Usually in a modern apocalypse plot, you almost always have that. The solution to it almost always is Cyborg fixes it. And it did here. And okay, that's fair. Like, that's almost always the solution.
Yeah.
Cyborg fixes it. He's the anti-apocalypse button. We have a cyborg, let's use him. Okay, fair enough. I will say that apparently there is one change from the original I'm very, very fucking upset about. He didn't say booyah on this.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed about that too. There was a couple places where he could have.
As I understand it, he did in the original cut.
He did.
Big lose.
Have it
Big
in my
thumb
notes
down,
here
Zachary.
As he said the thing. But you know what? Nobody said Dostoevsky apropos. Nothing.
No, I mean, you explained that joke. It's not apropos of nothing. It's I don't know Russian. The joke.
Yeah. It's. I guess Joss Whedon hates the Flash. I don't understand. He didn't fight in the first movie.
No, they even have a little bit of dialogue about it that I did see, which is, I don't fight people. I just sort of push them over. That might have been actually not in the movie.
No, yeah, it was.
Yeah. But, like, that's not the case here. He fights people.
Well, and there's a lot of creative editing around it, actually, which is really cool. But I do think that was a good Batman dad moment, where he's like, all right, then.
Save one person.
Save a person.
I do like that. Batman is very much Bat Dad in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Anything else, my friend?
I mean, probably more, but I'm going to let you off the hook.
All right. What I love about this movie, first and foremost, is it's not a comedy, is that it is taking itself seriously. And I don't mean that to mean that all superhero films need to be dark and gritty. Clearly not. I love the Marvel universe.
And I would say, from the bits I've seen of Batman and the Infinite Sadness, which is what I will still call Batman v Superman, sometimes it is very possible to take yourself over seriously.
Yeah, there's a lot I would have done differently about Batman v Superman.
But do you think this movie strikes the balance between not making it an episode of the Super Friends, but at the same time not like turning up the old school Linkin Park about it?
Yeah, I would say this is the zenith that we have been chasing since Man of Steel.
Do they hit the DC animated universe bar in terms?
No, I think it's still a little overly gritty, but that's a choice. Watching a lot of Batman v Superman really made me understand what Zack was drawing from in the world of comics. And, like, it's fucking obvious. This is the guy who did The Watchmen. Of course he's drawing from that late 80s, early 90s era. Of course he is, because that's when he fucking was reading comics.
You need look no further than the Batman he made to know exactly what era of comics he's drawing from.
But, like, once that all clicked into place in a way that I could digest mentally, I got it, and it was fine.
It's not my favorite era.
No, I don't want to read those darker, grittier comics unless it's being used as like a juxtaposition a la the Nightfall storyline. But it's not bad, and it's certainly not a violation of the characters. It's just...
It is a take. I am more a fan of the reconstruction as opposed to the deconstruction.
Yeah, looks like, let's be honest, I think I'm going to be a lot more fond of James Gunn's vision of the DC universe going forward. But
probably gonna be a lot more fun.
It's fucking got
arms fall off boys in it.
We got a whole mini series with John Cena
as dickhead Captain America.
God, can't wait. Anyway, but also the original Justice League wasn't fucking funny.
That's the thing about comedy. You have to be funny when you do it. And if you're not, you are instantly turbo cringe to the point that people will hate you.
Like, there are a couple of jokes that carried over into this movie that were a lot better. A, because it wasn't the worst cuts from a line-orama making it into the film, which is not what I actually think happened, but that's the quality we're dealing with here.
And there are some that I'm aware are the exact same cut.
Exact.
That you laughed at, that I know you bitched about when you watched the original version.
Because, well, there's two reasons. One comes down to editing. And, I mean, fucking look at this movie. Even if you cut out all the new shit, just the editing changes that he made sell it so much better. The changes in music, the changes in color, the changes in color matching saves a bunch of shitty CGI. The changes in tone created by atmospheric sound and softer incidental music. The changes in delivery.
This movie is like these two movies could be a masterclass on how editing can either make or break your cinematic effort.
You remember the old Animaniacs skit, Good Idea, Bad Idea?
Yeah.
There you are.
Like, it's just, I think, they might not, obviously, but you could, in a film study class, and this is me saying this having not seen the original, but having seen bits of it and having heard this dude rant about it for a long time.
I was really upset, especially following Batman v Superman, which I ended up liking.
You could probably have a film study class, watch both, and then write papers on why one works and one doesn't.
I can tell you the easiest version of that to start with. You've seen the trailers for Justice League. You know the Wonder Woman fight scene that was in the original version, because it's the same fucking fight scene.
Right.
And that's fine. It was a good fight scene. But if you compare that fucking theoretically to the way they did it in the Snyder Cut, where he speeds everything up and makes it look extra cool and does all the Zack Snyder shit.
He's Zack Snyder's.
I mean, first of all,
dude can film a fight scene.
We've already seen this fight scene. We saw it in the trailers. Why do we need to see it again? We don't. You give it a different presentation, a faster presentation, and you amp up the stakes. Beautiful. 110%. That's fantastic. It just fucking works. I'm getting the crazy rant man hair. Let me smooth it back before I start talking about my scars. But and again, going back to the fact that a lot of the good takes, the graveyard scene where they're digging up Superman, that was not new. It was instead weird banter between just Cyborg and Flash that was kind of jokey. It was alright. It had some heart to it. It was some of the few pieces of heart in the original film. This version was a lot better. And that's my second point as to why these jokes still work, is that they take the time to build these characters into likable characters throughout the course of the film. Instead of just going, y'all like Flash, right? He's on that CW show. You're already bought in.
Do you want that boy has developmental issues. I'm not going to get into too specifics, but dang.
But it wasn't like he wasn't Sheldon Cooper.
And you maintain that he was in the original cut?
I maintain I like Sheldon Cooper more than the guy in the original cut. At least he's funny.
You're mad about that brunch rant.
It was stupid. I mean, that might appeal to a specific pool of people who live in big enough cities where brunch is a big enough deal that you have to wait in line a block for it. But other people see this film. Like, I'm not going to insert into my books a joke about a fucking friend of mine going onto the bus.
There's
bullshit.
actually a term for this in comedy. I know what that is. Flash made an LA joke. That is a local joke.
Yes.
That is a joke that plays to a local audience that you don't use in material meant for a wider audience because it doesn't work. I know that rant because I've heard podcasters who are based out of LA do that fucking rant, essentially. So, like, yeah, that is what we call local color.
Yeah.
You don't do that in a wide release. That's Comedy 101. How did this make it into the edit?
Never mind an international release. How the fuck do you translate that joke into Finnish?
Buddy, I bet they probably just changed the line.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, though. Like, you're only making further complications for yourself in the future.
Yeah, they probably just changed it.
They just cut around it. This character felt like Barry. A take on Barry, but he still felt like a Barry.
No, that's Wally. Like C.W. Barry is Barry. He is kind of a goober, ultimately pretty serious, very earnest. And
there was a lot of earnest here too, though.
Wally's all your goof. Wally's all your goof in Flashes. Wally or Bart.
Yeah, but see, for me, Wally is a lot more Ryan Reynolds.
Less goofy, more like Kraken wise.
Yeah.
That's a fair distinction, but like C.W. Barry is good Barry.
I would agree that he's probably the best cinematic version we've seen of the Flash.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the reasons I like the Flash, even though I didn't watch much of it, is because it is exactly the opposite of Arrow. They took the version of the character I liked from comics and just did that, as opposed to fucking biting another dude's shtick. Which so many things that don't have a Barry and a Wally make Barry Wally for some reason, and they're different guys. They are different people, and it bothers me. And this one bothered me a little, but it's happened so much now I'm fucking numb to it.
Sure. I'm trying to go over my notes to see if there's anything really critical.
Okay, I'll talk about some more stuff I like.
Yeah.
The action scenes were really good.
Better. Hands down, all of them better.
Well, yeah, look, I like Joss, but Zack Snyder is a better action director than him. That's just fact. Zack Snyder's one of the most gifted action directors in the business. Even if you don't always like the story takes he makes, he's just good at filming people punching each other. He just is. There was this one bit that I don't know if it was in the original. I'm going to guess no, because it was good. There's a bit right before Batman goes to take out the big dome protecting the evil base. And he does some stuff which is like a clear allusion to I am Batman, I am about to heroically sacrifice myself for the good of the mission. Take care, my children, be well.
I don't think it was.
It was done so well.
Either that or I was so checked out that I didn't care.
It's such good Batman. Like, that's such good Batman. Gentlemen, it's been an honor. And, yes, exactly that.
I do have to mention, in general, about Batman, I have mixed feelings about the Batman v Superman Batman. I don't think that...
It's very murdery, for my taste.
Well, that's mostly just the dream sequences. But, I don't like his portrayal of Bruce. I don't believe his portrayal of Bruce. I don't believe he's Bruce Wayne. He is, in Batman v Superman, Ben Affleck. And it's not in that way that's like, I feel like I made this reference recently. I don't have the Stifler effect about that. You know what I mean?
It's not that you look at Sean William Scott and go, well, that's just Stifler.
Yeah, no, I don't, that's not, most of the time I don't have that. So it really confused me as to why in Batman v Superman I was having that problem. But he was good as Batman, except I didn't like the robotic bat voice. They tone it down a lot in this movie, except when he's yelling, he sounds a little weird, but I'm sure that's them doing their best with what they had.
I mean, also, he's yelling through a vocalizer. That sounds weird.
Sure, and maybe that was just a commitment to realism. I would believe that from the people who made this movie. That's not something I would give a shit about if I were in these people's shoes, but there's a lot of things I would have done different. It's not like this is the greatest movie of all time.
No, this is upper middle.
Yeah.
There's definitely stuff to criticize.
Yeah, I would agree.
For this version, not the much maligned bad version.
Yeah, the Zack Snyder, he did his cut, and it was a good cut.
Sometimes he also did weird shit. Like the music choices sometimes weren't great. Sometimes they were weird.
A little weird, yeah.
A little weird. You went a little high concept there, buddy.
I kind of liked the first Aquaman exit being to like this weird choir of people sort of worshiping him after more of his character played out.
That was like a weird folk song though about Jesus.
Yeah, but like that's the illusion they're making to him being Jesus, and this movie sells it so much better that he is their savior, that he's just fucking helping these people because he just keeps casually doing it.
But sometimes shirtless Jason Momoa covered in cool tattoos drinking whiskey while shirtless and waves hit him should probably be to a rock song. That should probably be to a rock song. That's a really cool image.
I think both of those work.
It should probably not be to a weird downbeat folk song about Jesus. That's a weird fucking call.
I don't have a lot of criticisms about this version of the film comparatively. Like, I wouldn't. You're absolutely right. Upper middle Marvel type movie tier. I think they could have gone a little lighter. There was some stuff that I personally would have cut. I don't think we needed the dream sequence, but given the way this movie
came into existence,
I don't begrudge it. It can be there. That's fine. I would have made it post credits, but why bother doing that when you're getting only a digital release?
Yeah, it's not.
What's the point in hiding it?
Unless you're doing literally like MCU at this point, it's a meme.
Right.
But yeah, no, the end of the movie, I do want to put some criticism on specifically this movie because it's not perfect and there is so much to malign about the original version that I don't want this version to come across as saintly by comparison. This movie does have the end of the Lord of the Rings problem. There are approximately 19 endings to this film.
They do at least on a big title card go epilogue.
That's fair. There's one good ending, and then they go, all right, and now epilogue. And now I'm going to do 9 more. Strap in, boyos. I couldn't decide which ending I wanted to go with, so here's all of them.
Well, and it's fucking hilarious that, like, even that first ending bit where Silas Stone's talking and you see the superheroes kind of getting their epilogues, that's better. I believe
that's the end of the movie.
I believe originally it's Batman talking.
That's not as good. I like Batman. Silas Stone is better there.
Well, and it's checked out Ben Affleck, so like it's not good acting.
And like that must be a difference in takes. Even though I'm aware some of those were the exact same take as were in the original, he never sounded checked out to me. I've heard that not just from you. Many people online have said Batman sounds really checked out in Justice League, and even the takes I'm aware they did not change because I've seen them before. He never sounds checked out to me.
And that's a point I never got to. This was the Batman I wanted from Ben Affleck. I believed him as Batman. They toned down the robot bat voice so he could act more. And his Bruce Wayne was dour, fatherly, and Batman-y. I don't know how better to put it. He acted like a Batman and not, as you so healthily pointed out, Lego Batman, who is not a character I want in regular Justice League movies.
Which is what he was in Batman v Superman.
Yeah. But, not Batman v Superman so much as original Justice League. Because he was very jocular. He was very, I'm that Batman, you know?
He still does make a fair amount of jokes.
He does crack some good one-liners. That's fine.
Like, what's your superpower? I'm rich. That made it in, and it was good.
It hit a lot better. There was cool music around it.
I think it hit better for you because it wasn't being poisoned by the rest of the movie being garbage.
Well, and I mean, that line directly follows the brunch rant and everything else around it.
Yeah, so, like, sometimes atmosphere, sometimes the surrounding part of a bit is as important as the bit.
Yeah, yeah.
You need, there's a joke about doing mushrooms there that I can't quite grab. It's like people, atmosphere, surroundings, or something like that. But, like, oh god. There was another little tiny joke that I loved that is very out of character for Batman, but is very in character for this version of Batman such that I actually bought it and didn't take me out of the film. There's a point where he brings all of the people to the Batcave, to the new Batcave, And
oh yeah,
yeah, they hit the thing and everyone goes, "Oh, this is cool," or mostly Barry and a little bit fucking Arthur, like this is cool. I brought some friends. Everyone, this is Alfred. I work for him.
It's good.
That's super out of character for Bruce. Bruce wouldn't say that. But it's so in character for this version that it felt good to hear because it was one of the tiny little things that really separated this take. And I like this take as its own thing.
Yeah.
So much has been made of various different takes of the Joker throughout the years. It's good to see an actual, like, genuine departure that's done well. It's not a huge difference, but this is a different version of Bruce Wayne. He is much less. You know what? I can actually narrow this down to like a single sentence. This Bruce Wayne doesn't hate himself nearly as much as usual. He feels guilty about some shit. But
then he fixes it and he's like, well, it's all fine now.
Yeah. But he doesn't hate himself nearly as much as usual. And it shows through in a lot of different tiny ways.
I would liken this Bruce Wayne to Dad Wolverine.
Yeah, that's a really good way of getting it across.
Yeah. And I mean that entirely positively. I like a funny superhero movie. I need to reiterate that because most of my criticisms as I'm reading through my old notes here are things like, this isn't funny, this is so bad, this is so stupid. And I borrowed my mother's summary of Rise of Skywalker, which is, of course, all capital letters, dumb. But like, I like Ant-Man a lot. I like the jokes in the Marvel movies a lot. I liked the jokes in this movie. That's like, you can make a funny, upbeat superhero movie and make it good. And the last version chose not to. Or it was playing to a specific fucking audience.
I mean, it made a lot of money.
Well, see, like, that's not... You can't unbuy your ticket.
Go ahead. What are you going to do? Unbuy the ticket?
Yeah, we sure did trick a lot of people into watching our dumb fucking movie. There's going to be so many people out there who are so much better, so much more well-equipped to explaining why this movie was more good.
This has just made fodder for the next 5 years of YouTuber think pieces. I'm going to see so many video essays there's actually a YouTuber I watch who literally does comparisons between movies that are very similar, that have very similar scenes. One scene that shows why X worked and Y didn't. Mm-hmm. Like, one scene that shows why Captain Marvel didn't work and Captain America did.
Yeah.
And, like, very similar structures. We're going to see so many think pieces. Why? One scene that shows why Whedon's Justice League doesn't work and Snyder's does.
The Flash doesn't fall down into Wonder Woman's boobies. That helps. That not being a thing helps a lot.
Quick sidebar. What?
Yeah, when they're fighting in the sewer-ish area, the second time he biffs it, and in this version he like crashes into a wall and then he's out for the rest of the fight. Instead, he crashes into, I think, Wonder Woman and falls into her boobies and has...
the joke that happens
Yes,
there.
yeah.
Only the dead can know peace from this evil. Will you stop that? Well, people who make movies, will you... That's not a funny joke. That wasn't a funny joke in the 90s. Stop it.
I mean, you could set that up to be funny, but they didn't.
You know what they did fucking set up? And I didn't even notice it. And I should have seen this coming. I am a person who will rant about how much the Flash can fuck up the dramatic tension of your thing if you don't use him right, because he is so broken and so OP. They set up Flash's big hero moment earlier in the movie so subtly that I didn't notice it.
Here's the fucking beautiful thing. All right, the setup you're talking about is when they're rezzing Superman.
Yeah.
And they have to drop the mother box into the soup's jelly.
And
Flash has to touch it at the exact right time.
with his static electricity, he has to rub his feet across the carpet real fast and then give it a poke at the exact right moment.
The stuff they added was that, he was talking about, like, I don't like to go light speed. That's a rule I have. And you can kind of understand why as the audience, because that's probably bad.
Weird stuff happens to time. I generate a lot of electricity, so I might be able to jumpstart the cube.
Sure. And he does this cool thing with it, which in the original movie, he just sort of runs and he does it, and he times it perfectly because the Flash is really good. In this one, he fucks up. There's an argument, they don't tell him to go at the right time, so he misses it. But he starts to push against that light speed barrier, and time reverses a little bit, so he touches it at the right time and it doesn't fuck up. And I was like, wow, what a cool way to move your expectations around between the two versions of the movie. Interesting, though, because I believe Zack Snyder didn't watch the original version. Oh well, and then I forgot.
Turns out Zack Snyder was doing a thing. He was setting up both standard Barry Allen, the boy solves all his problems by run real fast, solution to the problem of the movie, which is due to some unfortunate timing and them really just not, like, there was a long period of time there where he could have done the thing, and for some reason Cyborg just didn't say anything.
I believe Cyborg was deep in the grips of the mother box. Basically, is what was going on there.
He was having a moment. Yeah. He was trying, but like he misses his window. Like he gets hurt. He loses his big light speed charge up. And they lose. The thing happens, and the big explosion, and they're all dead, and then Barry starts to run. And anyone who's watched enough CW will know what happens when Barry starts to run. The boy solves all his problems by run real fast, and he rewinds time fucking Donner Superman style.
Not only that, but it plays off of his earlier conversation with his dad about how he's like, choose your own future, don't be bogged down by me. And he's like, I can't choose my own future, I'll choose my own fucking past. And, like, the visual effect is so good because I was so blindsided by this. Because if you haven't seen the original Justice League, the Flash's big hero moment is pushing a truck full of Russian people who have been a fucking stupid-ass side plot because they live near where Apocalypse is coming in through the whole fucking original Justice League movie. And then he looks at a little girl who thanks him in Russian, and instead of anything else, he says Dostoevsky and gives a thumbs up. Fucking, I am so blindsided by this amazing thing that I am, like a mark, watching him take steps and going, oh my god, he is reversing time. Like, the most genuine reaction that you can have being a comics insider, knowing what the Flash does. I got it. They fucking did close magic to me. A card came out of a man's hand and I was like, oh!
I mean, once he started running out, I was like, actually, it was when he did he transitioned to fast mode, and I was like, oh, good, they're going to do the Barry Allen thing. I loved it. One of the things I loved about it is they literally did it Donner Superman style. They played the footage in reverse.
Yeah, it was so good.
It's such a beautiful little Easter egg. But it was really good. The way they did that well, I want to mention, is that Flash doesn't win. He does all of that to enable somebody else to win.
Which is another beautiful thing they did in this movie, is they really emphasized teamwork. The fuck up they did, and I might blame that a-hole, is in the original version, is they're fighting amongst themselves the whole time. We don't need to see that again. We already saw that in the Marvel movie. Don't be like every other DC movie and just do a Marvel movie again. We don't need to see the Avengers original film.
And this version is past the great DC separation where they realized they are allowed to do their own thing.
Sure. Well, and it was basically a zero-risk move, and they didn't have to pay Zack Snyder to do it, so they went, well, whatever.
And it worked out for them. It was really good.
Yeah. Fuck.
Drove at least a couple HBO Max subscriptions, I'm sure.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And I'm sure it'll drive more as news continues to roll out that, wow,
Everyone is good. Everyone is good.
Yeah.
The internet shitlords are right. The constant, never-ending, years-long screeching about, release the Snyder Cut. They were right. I'm going to miss those bits so much. I like mocking those people. They're fucking insufferable.
Give them a minute. They'll fuck something up.
But they were right. The Snyder Cut is good.
Yeah.
It's way better, as you were telling me.
I mean, there were whole swaths of that movie where you were like, well, what was this like in the original movie? Not there.
Yeah, literally, there would be like 10 minutes would go by. I was like, so what did they do here? Oh, this whole thing wasn't in there. Fucking what? And it's like very integral plot points. And like...
Cyborg's entire arc was not in the fucking original movie. He had some shit to get over, and then he got over it, the end. That was the original Justice League. This was incredible. Great Cyborg origin story. Great acting. I hope they managed to get this guy back. I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he got done dirty. He got done Black Manta dirty.
I am simultaneously morbidly curious about the original version, and also never am going to watch it.
I mean, if you want to one day have a series of emotional reactions that are the one dude from Twister, has he played in that movie about having many wives? We had a
Why would you do that?
Why
Bill
would
Paxton.
you do that? Bill Paxton. I don't know if you all have ever seen Big Love, I believe was the name of the series.
About half the man's dialogue could literally be replaced with, why would you do that?
And really, that's the best reaction to what most of his wives were doing. But, yeah, if you ever want to have 2 hours, because it's not a big investment, it's 2 hours of why would you do that?
Like, because as I understand it, the whole... Like, there's a whole big side quest, in the climax of the original cut, where they're saving civilians.
Yeah.
In this movie, they make a point, very early on in the movie, go, nobody lives there. It's abandoned. Only the army goes there. One line, we're not doing that. And then they don't. They have a cool big fight.
Yeah.
Look, Age of Ultron was good. I agree Age of Ultron was good. But a big part of Age of Ultron was them shitting on Man of Steel for, no, we will not let the civilians die. We will save all the civilians. Take your L and move on.
Well,
don't try and do the same thing.
And I don't know if that's what the point was, because literally there are 2 civilians saved. I mean, like 2 bubbles of civilians. There is the truck Flash Pushy, and then there's the house Superman carry away.
And, like, it seems... A bunch of the differences between this cut seem to be that, literally, director-shaped hole, the a-hole, just, from what you're explaining, must really dislike the Flash.
Really dislike the Flash and really
fucking love specifically and only the Justice League animated version of the Flash.
Where he's kind of a joke.
Where he is a joke.
And love fucking Lego Batman. Wonder Woman was fine in the original film. She's better here, but she was fine. I really liked her. Cyborg also fine. Aquaman swings and roundabouts, but overall...
Cyborg didn't say booyah, big thumb down. Look, I understand you say character arc much better, existent versus non. I accept that. I'm glad he has a character arc. No say booyah, but thumb down.
That I respect it. And I could have just queued up some Teen Titans footage and just like waited, and then be like, "Booyah!" And then you were like, "Oh yeah, he said it." I guess I didn't see his lips move, but whatever, you know. They like the CGI improved so much too. Like there was a thing with Cyborg where when his head moved, he would like snake it around instead of turning his head, because we have CGI, I guess. But if I'm being grossly uncharitable, it looked like Reboot. It just didn't look real. Like, not even Uncanny Valley. Just, like, south
Fake.
of that. This is not a real thing that I'm looking at. It's not even trying. They didn't do that here. We don't do that here.
So much of this movie could be replaced by that gif. We don't do that here. What about Dostoevsky? We don't do that here. What about the brunch rant? We don't do that here.
What about the bat smile or awkward bat boner for Superman? We don't do that here. What about the boobies? Just to maybe shut up and just watch the movie. I suppose that's where this comes down to. It's a 4-hour flick.
And I'm trying... One of the reasons I wanted to specifically criticize stuff that happens in this cut...
Yeah.
...is because they basically have a humongous natural advantage over the other cut in that they have double the time to work with. So a bunch of shit which doesn't work in 2 hours can be put in that works in 4. Because there's a bunch of shit that's really good in this movie that they probably could not have possibly done in the 2-hour version because you don't have time to do it.
I question who decided it had to be 2 hours.
The studio.
100% this is a fact?
I don't have it as like a writ. I don't have any proofs. I don't have a paper I can cite. But generally speaking, that's almost always a studio thing because it for a lot of complicated financial reasons, there is a maximum length of time you generally want a theatrical movie to be.
And that's fine. Batman v Superman was longer, 3 hours. I think you could make a 3-hour cut of this movie that's still good. Honestly, you could make a 2-hour cut of this movie that's still good just because of the better efforts for tone.
I don't know that you could. I think a bunch of the stuff that makes this movie good requires more time to breathe. It requires time that they don't have if it's a 2-hour movie.
I think you could make a cut of this movie that's 2 hours that's still better than the Justice League.
It might be somewhat incoherent, but I would wager that might be better than actively bad, yes?
Yeah. That was more my point than, this movie could work in 2 hours. I think 3.5 is the sweet spot.
Yeah, there's about a half hour of trimmable shit in this. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy they didn't, ultimately. As much as I joke, most of the half hour is the epilogue.
Yeah, it really is. Most of that just lifts right out. And then there's some scenes of shit that didn't need to happen that you can cut elsewhere.
But I understand why it's there.
Sure.
Look.
We got this footage laying around. Might as well fucking use it.
Or, as I understand it, the Joker, the whole new scene with fucking Deadshot and the Joker and all that shit, all new footage.
Well, and that's fine too because, hey, this is the story I wanted to tell. These are the hooks I wanted to leave.
You can tell it's new footage, too, because Ben's a lot thinner.
That's true. I didn't notice, but... Hey, that's actually something to mention. And perhaps close the podcast out on. This movie is presented in 4:3. I only noticed when they told us that, and we made a bunch of jokes about it.
Because it is unbelievably special, Snowflakey, to fucking... This is presented in 4:3 to preserve Zack Snyder's vision. I wouldn't make that joke if they didn't literally write that on the fucking screen like a bunch of children.
But you know what? I only ever noticed when I paused it.
Look, at the end of the day, black bars are black bars. It probably loses less screen real estate that way. I don't actually care. I am mocking them because they said something incredibly fucking ridiculous.
And I agree with that. But, there's a lot of times where I can get sucked out of a movie by less. I was watching this in my home. My preferred viewing experience is a theater because I don't have distractions. I played a little Animal Crossing in the beginning, but, I turned it off and then I watched 3.5 hours of a movie that was weirdly shaped.
I basically don't notice stuff like that. The only time I notice stuff like that is if it's not the natural aspect ratio, because that means something's been cropped, and that never looks good.
Why did we only get half a Batman here? He's Two-Face now. Harvey. Ew. It's an animated series joke.
And a deep cut personal joke too.
But I think you can get it if you've seen that episode of the animated series.
But I don't really know that I have much. There's not a big final thought for me.
No, I guess that was the point I was driving at. Would you recommend this to somebody who is interested in superheroes?
It's 4 fucking hours. But if you got 4 hours that you're willing to sacrifice upon the altar of a pretty good comic book movie, watch Justice League Doom twice. But then, watch this.
I don't say the words. Please say the words.
Everything's better when nerds talk about it.
Fuck it.